Yeah. So yeah. I guess now. So I'm Valencia. Just for people who are, access these recordings after. I'm Valencia James. I'm the lead artist or artist director of the Volumetric Performance Toolbox, and I am a Black femme with dark brown skin, and I am wearing a blue sweater and a very colorful head wrap. And so I'm just going to pass it over to Carlos Johns Davila for we're gonna continue with a resident introduction um, presentation. So yeah, so take it away, Carlos. Looking forward to
Cool.
hearing more about your work.
Great. Let me share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Sad face. But in the meantime, my name is
Sorry, yeah.
Carlos. I am a Peruvian American male. I'm calling in from Brooklyn, New York, in my apartment studio. Visual description: I have black hair, and I'm wearing a wrinkly button-down shirt, a blue shirt with these maroon printouts of bunny rabbits around there. It's really fun. I like it. I'm gonna share. Let's see. There we go. Share this. Actually, let me share sound as well. There we go. Start from here. We're good? Cool. So my name is Carlos, like I just mentioned. I want to kind of give a background on where I come from and who I am, because I feel like that informs my creative output and kind of my ideologies. So I am born and raised in Hanover, Pennsylvania. It is considered the snack capital of the world. If you ever had Utz chips, I know they sell them in the bodega down the street here, and I've seen them in different parts of the world, whether I've been in Germany or Peru. I always find a bag of Utz chips everywhere. So it's always like pretty pretty staple solid food snack capital. I descend from a Peruvian matriarch, and was raised by my father, who also had his partner for now 23 years now. Um, and we've kind of been this family unit that's worked very functionally, and was able to kind of I don't know, sort of think differently and come to acceptance with different kinds of like familiar upbringings and households in this small town of Hanover. So that's why I put this in here. But soon afterwards, since Hanover, Pennsylvania wasn't the most accepting city in Pennsylvania, I moved over to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is where I did my undergrad. It was a really fun place. I highly recommend Philly for um, a lot of people starting out in the arts, because there's a really interesting DIY culture there. And I feel like I really embedded myself within the community there as well. Um, I have a quote here. John Kerry couldn't even order a cheesesteak properly. Um, the correct answer to that is with whiz and onions, in case anybody was wondering. So yeah, I went to Temple University. I pursued a bachelor's of music composition. I considered myself like an improviser and a performer. And these two pictures show some collaborations I've done. One with the Peruvian flute that you see me playing screen right, and with a really interesting pop-up dance performance by Almanac Dance Circus Theater Company. They're based in Philadelphia. And another project, Nosferatu, that I did a while ago, where I rescored the silent film of Nosferatu. It was a really fun project. I also put down that I was a part-time butcher. I thought that was important because as artists, we always need to kind of build resilience, and I found a helpful way to do that is to learn how to cook and how to cook well for yourself and cook important meals. and always carve out that time for yourself to actually craft something in your daily diet to feed yourself and nourish yourself. So that's a little bit about Temple and Philadelphia. Um, so upon graduating my with my bachelor's in music composition, I realized not necessarily so prepared to kind of take my projects forward and understand how to actually make some kind of profit off of them or actually pay other artists, because that's the end goal here is to pay artists and co-create. So I was looking for a master's program that would allow me to be both parts, equal parts administrator and artist. And I went to New York uh, uh, to the new school. And one of our readings there was the MFA is the new MBA, and that's an article by Catherine Bell from the Harvard Business Review, and she sort of really supports this idea that artists should definitely be at the forefront of business meetings and innovation and pioneering like new technologies. So I went to the new school. I pursued my master's in arts management and entrepreneurship. The first job I got here was as Trader Joe's crew member, also following that line of finding food and nourishing yourself. And I also have to say that I've met so many great people through Trader Joe's, whether they just been supporters of my art or also just the people that I've worked with. It's really like a conservatory of artists I've met there, different kinds of filmmakers and dancers and other types of creatives. I highly recommend if you have a Trader Joe's in your city to get to know the folks there. They're really great. But yeah, during my time at the new school, I really embedded myself with 360 video. I thought this was a really good way to kind of capture immersive performances and to display interaction between different groups of people, performer and audience. And they introduced me to the studio that I would then work at upon graduating called Three-Legged Dog, who also really embedded me inside the interactive and VR world. I wanted to share a little bit about my master's thesis here. It was called While You Wait. It was a collaboration between me and a choreographer. And we set out to do these virtual installations. So what you see on your screen right is an easel with a QR code and some very simple graphic instructions for people to come up with their smartphone, scan the QR code, and pops up a 360 video in the YouTube app. And at the bottom of the easel, you can see we have cardboard viewers that people can borrow and put inside their phone to view a site-specific piece right there in that location. And the reason why it's called While You Wait is because it was an effort to try to build these installations in places where people would already have their phone out and maybe checking their email or answering a text. And so they would already be kind of invited or prompted to step into a performance if they're waiting for the elevator or waiting for a cup of coffee. I did a second part of this installation recently at a public park in Inwood Hill Park in northern Manhattan. That was an incredible experience. We filmed about like 8 hours of work and safely under COVID guidelines. It turned out being really amazing and truly a great experience to try to work with performers in a post-pandemic sort of world. So I'll share with you a little bit of this piece. Hopefully you can hear something.
No audio, Carlos.
Oh, you don't hear anything?
No.
Share sound. I'm not sure why the audio isn't coming up, but I can also link to this video in the chat later. But it sort of gives you a good idea of, we play with this idea of the performers kind of doubling over themselves. So this is the same girl doing another solo where she interprets what she's doing and how she's interacting with her friends in the park. And it goes on to develop in these multitude of layers that you see with people playing with each other, but they're not really there when they were recorded at the same time. It's just dancers have this amazing phenomena where they can spatialize time and everything so accurately that these duets ended up sort of layering very nicely on top of themselves this way. Moving on. Next slide. This is another piece that I've done in Isadora with some body tracking. You'll see my body kind of tracked in the lower left corner of the screen, and I'm sort of controlling these light visuals with my arms. So I like using Isadora for collaborations and sort of pushing the autonomy of the performer to be able to make their own sounds and gestures and cues. I think it's a really good program for experimenting and making mistakes is the best way to kind of learn inside this program. And it's definitely help me with like quick creative solutions whenever there's on-demand artist needs or aesthetical changes that I need to provide. It's really simple to just kind of fix or change a parameter inside this program. This is a live video opera that I'm working with a opera singer with. We'll be using Isadora. Part of it.
En esta vida, en esta vida, ya he muerto. Tantas veces, tantas veces. Que solo me queda, solo me.
So the idea is that the performer has autonomy to control the stage and change the visuals and sort of make up the entire album as she goes along and kind of navigates the performance from the audience. And that's everything that I have to share. I'm really excited to be working with you guys, and I'm very happy to share any kind of knowledge, whether it's in audio design or 360 video or Isadora, with all of you guys. I'd really invite you to follow me on Instagram. It's at PrinceCarlos5, or check out my website at www.virtualcarlos.com. Thank you. I think you're muted, Valencia.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm muted. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your work. It's really beautiful visuals. So I'm really looking forward to, what we'll create together. So without further ado, let's jump back into the kit, and yeah, I'll turn it over to Thomas and Simon.
Simon speaking. Thanks, Valencia. Thank you, Carlos, for sharing. Yeah, like you said, let's jump back in. Before the break, we'd gotten people set up with VNC. And unless Thomas corrects me here, I believe we're done with that part of it, right? Everyone was able to connect to their Pi through VNC. If that's the case, we're gonna shelve that knowledge for now. It'll come in handy later. But for now, let's go back to the kit itself and set up our stream. Sound good? Great. So let me change my view. And Valencia, would you mind pinning my video or spotlighting it so it appears in the recording? Or Jules, you're here too. All right, thanks, Valencia. So everyone here got should have gotten 2 URLs emailed to them in one email. So a streaming URL. So I'm trying to find my place in my notes here, and a dashboard URL. So in the document that we shared on how to set up your kit, there's instructions on how to go and find your streaming URLs. We're not going to go over that here in the interest of time. It's much more simple if you use the ones that we sent to you in the email. If you're curious about it, or if you need to at some point in the future, there are instructions in that document that's shared, which I'll post right here again, just in case in the chat. But there are instructions on how to get that URL if you need to do so. So to do all our streaming, we're using a platform called Mux. Thomas can speak a little bit more about Mux, which he has already. But Mux is, in lieu of something like Twitch or YouTube Live, it's a platform that allows streaming. And Thomas, would you mind elaborating a little bit on that?
Yeah. There's a, let's see, where to start. There's many streaming platforms out there that this can work with. And so that's the key takeaway of this is we're using Mux. That is not a definition or a constraint of our project, but it's just a very easy, or at least as from technical, it has been a very easy way to get streaming points going and to get the performance that we need out of this without having to set up our own infrastructure. When we're thinking about streaming, there's the key thing is that the consumption of video on the internet is not oriented towards live broadcast. So when we watch a video on Netflix, which is using the internet, or if we're watching a video on YouTube, those videos are they're using technology that is made to have they're like film, right? It's a linear long-term thing that plays. And when it starts playing, it has an idea of when it's going to end playing. So that's one thing to understand about what we're doing here is that we're kind of going against a lot of what the internet's built to do right now, which is this idea of live broadcast. Live broadcast we know from TV, right? TV is set up for a live broadcast scenario. With the TV doesn't know when it's going to end. It's just going to keep playing the data that it gets in. So one of the challenges that we have when we want to do live performance online is going from this live stream of data that could have no end, that is just now, to this other technology, which assumes that everything's going to have an end to it, and it knows where that is. And so what we need to do is we need to transform the live signal to a linear sequential signal. And that's what Mux does for us. So Mux takes just an unending stream of bytes, which is what comes out of the RealSense camera, and it converts it into a playlist of small MP4 files. And MP4 files is what most of us are familiar with when we think about video. They're like 5-second MP4 files. So it's taking your live stream and it's chopping it up into 5-second MP4 files. And then in Hub and in Mozilla Hubs and Spoke, I've modified them to be able to use a system to be able to play that. So technically what we're doing is we're going from a real-time streaming protocol, RTMP, to we're using something called HLS, which I forget what that stands for, but HLS is that basically it's a playlist of small MP4 files, and that playlist is dynamically updated. So what Mux is doing is basically making a playlist of all these little chunks of video, and our browser is getting those chunks. I'm explaining this because I want you to also have a feeling for what's the tech or what's the infrastructure underneath this, because it also means that there's a boundary, there's a box that we have to live within from what is technically possible, from a fidelity perspective, but also from a latency perspective. And when I use the word latency, what I'm meaning is it's the time between something happening in real time in the world and the time that you actually see it happening in your browser. And because we have to send the data to the internet, and then the internet MUX is going to chop it up, and then we have to download that, there's actually quite some latency. Well, quite some. There is between 20 and 30 seconds of a delay. Latency is what they call that, between you clapping and you actually seeing it on the other end in Hub. And that can be a challenge when we play with this, or that has been a challenge for myself. I'm like, oh, it's not working. Or like, oh no, wait. And so we're not used to it, at least I'm not used to, when I'm going to create a flow, to have to wait. It's like I play the drums, so it's like playing the drums, but you don't hear what you play until 30 seconds later. And it can be pretty frustrating. So that's something that I just wanted to say up front to all of us, that, you know, that's the world we're in right now. From a technical perspective, it's going to be difficult for us to achieve anything that's really going to bring that latency down. If you use YouTube or if you use Twitch, even those, they have pretty high latencies. So 10 to 30 seconds is actually really good, considering what we're trying to do. And, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as the internet changes, and as the technology and the way that what we can do with browsers is another constraint that we have, because we're using a web browser as our, you know, our box to play in. As they get better and more oriented towards streaming, that latency will get cut down. So that's kind of the story of streaming. And again, we're planning to make some documents to kind of explain some of this, so that people understand like why it is the way it is, and to account for it as you're thinking through it. That's a lot of info. I'm sure how familiar you guys are with this and how much you've streamed in the past, but any questions about that, just from a theory perspective or from like a infrastructure as to like what's going on, that I can answer? Cool. Well, I think then let's try something, Simon. See if it works.
Thanks for Simon speaking. Yeah, thanks, Thomas, for that explanation. A lot of this is new to me as well, so it's good for me to understand that too. So I'll share my screen with my notes on right now. That'll be the best way to go forward with this. I'll just kind of explain what you'll see, or where the your stream key comes from, right? So to Kit, you need to tell the Kit where to send. Oh no. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my computer keeps telling me that Zoom quit unexpectedly, and yet here we are.
No.
Still here. Oh,
there
he's.
Am I back? Am I really here?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
here.
Hard to tell what's real at this point. Okay, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Anyway, what I was saying was we need to tell the performance kit where to send that stream, right? So to do that, we have to take that stream key, which we wrapped in URL that we'll put into that website, that very basic website that we first accessed from the IP address that's on the Pi screen. Let me share my screen again here. Hopefully that wasn't what was causing the problem. So there's two URLs in the email that I sent you. One is the stream key URL, and one is the dashboard URL. So the dashboard URL you don't actually have to use right now. That'll come in handy when we get into getting our recordings off of MUX. So everything we stream will be recorded, and you can download them as volumetric video that you can then use in Spoke, in Hubs, and work with, as opposed to working with live streamed video. But if you use that URL, you can put that into your browser and you can sign into MUX. I believe you also got an invitation from me to join our MUX organization. And that'll let you into the page directly that has all the information for your personal stream URL, for your personal stream. So that page looks like this. In this screenshot, I actually went and scribbled out the key information because I don't want that appearing publicly on the internet. Again, please keep your stream keys URLs and your dashboard URLs, because they contain your stream key in them. Please keep them private. And just to explain how the stream URL works, it is right here. It's the RTMP URL plus the live stream ID. So in your dashboard, you have this URL, RTMP global live mux.com 5222 app. You add another slash after that, and then you would paste in your live stream ID. So again, you have that all ready to go, but I want you to know where that comes from. And that's all detailed here in this section too. So enough talk about that. Let's actually go and start our streams. So I also want to bring this up, which is when you are streaming, everything your kit's camera and microphone pick up while your kit is actively streaming, it can be found as persistent recording in the MUX dashboard. Everyone who's in that organization can access that page. It's a little roundabout how to get there, but it is all going to the same place. It's it's like having like a shared bookshelf or a desk or something where like, we're all going to get our own, trying to think of a better metaphor here, but we're all going to get our own parts of it, but we can see what everyone else has there. I find this is hard to keep in mind sometimes, especially when you're streaming. Like when Thomas and I were setting this up, I left the stream running, and then we got off topic and we're having a personal conversation, and he reminded me that I was streaming. Nothing sensitive was in there, but like in my mind, I had not internalized that there is a live microphone here. There is a live camera here. This thing, I've been around cameras and microphones quite a bit in my life, and the kit does not look like a camera or a microphone to me. It's new technology, and so I don't really register that this is sending everything I'm saying and doing in front of it into the internet. It's not totally public, but it is available to the people in this group. So I just want to remind everyone here that that is what's happening when you're streaming. Stop that screen share. I'll switch my camera over. Are there any questions about that right now? I know that's kind of a big concept or a heavier concept, but it's a reminder to be, to be mindful of when you're running a stream and when it's not running. And there are some indicators on the kit they'll talk about as well that show you when you're streaming.
And you do have full control over deleting them. So if you go into your channel, or if you go into you can go online, delete your streams. So that's just the thing to consider. It's like if it's captured something and you didn't like it, or you don't want to share that, then you can go in and delete it. So that's just the thing to consider.
Yeah. And Simon speaking again, and to be clear, it's not quite like, oh, my camera's not working. There we go. It's not quite like YouTube. It doesn't just show you like, it's not easily accessible, right? It doesn't just show you a bunch of videos that were recorded in our organization. There's navigation. It's all hidden behind links. So it's not like someone else who's on the dashboard or in MUX will just be able to see what you're streaming, like if they're not looking for it. But if they're looking for it, they can. So that's the distinction I want to make there too. All right, let's go back to the desk view. So if your Pi is still on and the screen is black or blank, you just tap the screen and it should wake back up. So what we need to do is we want to go to the address that is, cables aren't long enough here, the address that's on our individual Pi screen, like we did before, in our browser. So this is a bit different from how we were doing it in VNC. I'll share my browser screen again. So this is the page that we want to be on.
This is Terry speaking. The browser of our phone or computer, or does it matter?
Yeah.
It's Thomas speaking. It doesn't matter. Whichever is the easiest to copy and paste the URL into. I have been using my computer because it's such a complicated URL, and it's easier. I found it's easier to copy and paste that RTMP URL just using a keyboard and a mouse versus trying to do that on a phone. But either will work. Whichever you have handy is what I would recommend.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Simon speaking. If you want to use your phone, because sometimes it's nice to be able to start and stop your stream from a device that you have handy. You might not have your computer next to you. That URL is in your email, and if you can access your email on your phone, you could copy and paste it that way. I often, for these sorts of things, use some kind of note-taking web app, like Google Keep or something. I'll just paste a link in there just so I can easily copy it and paste it into my phone. So you all have your streaming URLs. You'll want to paste those in that top bar where it says streaming endpoints. I need to get one because I don't have the same ones. I didn't email myself a URL, so I need to go grab one from Mux for quickly. And Thomas, maybe you can direct me to which one to use for this example.
Oh yeah, let me give you, I'll Slack you.
Great, thank you.
One, two, because I have it ready to go, sorry. There you go.
Thank you. So I'm not going to screen share this part because, again, I don't want my key recorded, but you would paste that URL. It starts with RTMP into the streaming endpoints box at the top of that web page. So to recap, you go to the IP address that's displayed in your Pi's screen, and then in your browser, on your phone or on your computer, and then where it says streaming endpoint, paste in your streaming URL. How are we all doing? Are people catching up still? It's okay if we are. Okay. And I'm going to actually set up the kit a little better. It's a little less visible on the camera.
This is Terry speaking. My stream popped up briefly, but then it went away. Is that normal?
No, that means, can you verify that your microphone is plugged in to the, this is Thomas, sorry, the microphone needs to be plugged into the pink connector.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then when you look at the browser, the website, did it put out a lot of status messages? Can you
Yes.
see? Can you copy and paste those into Slack?
Yes.
Not Slack or Zoom, whichever works. Zoom is fine too.
Okay.
Too many tools. Is anybody else having that? Having same issues? Cut out to.
Yeah,
This is
Mary
Carlos.
in
Yeah.
here. I had the same issue, sorry.
So you are all seeing this problem.
Yes, me too. This is Valencia speaking. It was streaming and now it's not.
Simon speaking. Is it working for anyone? After you press start?
Can you make sure that what I think, sorry, this is Thomas speaking, Terry and others, if you have it, Mariana, so make sure when you copy and paste in the URL that it doesn't have spaces. Like sometimes I've had it that there's like a space at the end of the URL or in the front, and I'm not trimming that URL right now. Because I think this error, if you're getting this error, what it means is that it can't connect, that it doesn't know how to, so that there's something up with the URL that you're pasting in. Okay, so when you're seeing that, Remy, that means that it should say playing. Remy, I just saw your note. Are you seeing a preview on your screen, or is your screen gray?
My screen is still gray with the HTTP number on it, but yeah, I'm getting that response. I can paste the whole thing. That was just the first 2 sentences.
Okay. 1 second. Let me have a look at your streaming URLs. 1 second.
Okay.
This is why we're doing this together.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get there. 1 second.
So I had a very similar problem. This is Carlos speaking, that Terry had. And I hit the restart on the web browser and restarted my device. And now I am streaming. Just kidding, not anymore. It was working for a bit. I saw the volume capture. I was excited.
Huh. Let me try. I'm a little bit stumped because we tested all your kits before sending them out.
My whole Pi is like starting and restarting on its own. I will monitor it. Valencia speaking, sorry.
Yeah, that is another, I don't know what that issue is. It's automatically restarting.
Yeah, but let's put that on the back burner and get everybody else situated. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an extra device. So Simon kind of has the device for us both.
You want to VNC into mine?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what to do here. 1 second, guys. What I'm going to do, Kat, I know your stream key. I'm going to borrow your stream key and verify if it works on the device that we have. So if you would try to not stream for a second, then we can at least verify that there's not something up with the key itself.
Got it.
Thank you, Kat. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, I think I'm seeing the issue. Simon and I made a mistake when we sent you your URLs. So what we're gonna have to do is send you guys new URLs. The stream URL is not the right one. That's the error that you currently get if the endpoint that you're putting in is invalid. So we need to send you new endpoints, and I'm going to work on that right now. So this is where we have advertising or something else.
Commercial break.
Commercial break or whatever break you want. Chat among yourself when we figure out this URL. I'll put them together right now. Luckily, there's only 8, so it should be pretty quick.
Play some hold music or something.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, this is Valencia here. I wonder, Simon, if this might be a good part to maybe talk about what we might want to replace the like the title capture kit with. What do you think?
Simon speaking. Let me bring my video back so I'm actually speaking to you. It's not the little googly-eyed microphone talking for me. I think that's a conversation that's good to have. I've been, that's kind of a quick fix, replacing it in my documentation with Performance Kit. Volumetric Performance Kit, which is what this is, but this is everyone's project. So it shouldn't just be my decision that I just made, as a quick fix in what I was writing. So do you have any ideas, Valencia, or anyone else?
Well, I have, sorry, Marian speaking. I have a question. What was the problem with calling it a capture kit? Maybe I missed that part.
Well, I remember in the first introduction, and Malaika isn't here to like speak to that, but she did bring up like how capture for her as a Black woman and is kind of gives, it's reminiscent of the history of transatlantic slavery. At least that's how I understood it. And then I was like, oh wow, I didn't think of it like that. But I was curious how you guys think about it. I want to bring it back to the group. What do you feel?
I never thought, Marianne speaking, I never thought of it like that. I'm sorry, I must have missed when Malaika shared that, but yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting point.
Simon speaking. I think there is a lot of language that, especially related to technology or like video production, that has its roots in violence, like people might argue like, if they're words, but like they have histories to them, right? And so as someone with a background in video, I'm often trying to like excise from my vocabulary the term shooting, right? Because it's, it may work in like an etymological sense, but it doesn't feel good to say that. I don't like saying that I'm shooting someone or shooting myself. And so I think this calling it a capture kit is, it's a similar discussion to the one about like, how we replace historically violent language when it's language that's meant to be about either something technical or about some kind of creation. So I don't know what the answer is in this case, but that's how I think about this discussion.
I'd probably also, this is Carlos speaking, I'd add that a lot of times these words are they almost seem mechanical in a way that is very like instantaneous. And maybe there just needs to be kind of a more human lens towards this kind of interaction that we're having with the performance kit. The way I see it is sort of like a mirror, because it is kind of capturing a different lens of reality in terms of depth. I know at least, does this use infrared to capture body? Infrared, yeah, okay. So then maybe there's something in there.
It does, it uses infrared a little bit, but it also uses stereoscopic vision. So it's 2 eyes, basically, just like our human vision. And that's how it creates, in this specific case, that's how it creates the depth, or that's how it measures depth, is by looking at that. Carlos, sorry, this is Thomas speaking, but I love what you're saying. One of the reasons we put the googly eyes on there was as an effort to, to not fall into like tech for tech's sake and glorification of tech or a tech aesthetic, but like to be open, and we don't have to have googly eyes on there. That's just a fun joke. But to basically think about these things in a different way. And that's where I believe I'm with Simon that capture kit is a very tech word that makes a lot of sense to people that are photographers and they're used to shooting and capturing things. But it doesn't have a human perspective to it at all. Actually, I think that's lacking. And that's what Malik was pointing out, that it actually could have a negative human connotation. So I like the idea of a different, coming up with a different, different name or a different way to reference it.
Simon speaking, and something that also that can be, you know, less mechanical, like you're saying, than like volumetric performance kit or VPK. It's you know, those have been shorthands to write about it. You know, we wrote VPK on we labeled the boxes essentially with that because it lets us keep track of them. But this is a conversation that we've had at Glowbox quite a bit about, like balancing scalability with whimsy. It's important to have some fun and keep the human element in technology, and language is a big part of that.
This is Terry speaking. I just wanted to bring attention to the conversation we're kind of having in the chat about performance capture being reminiscent of motion capture, and how motion capture is already, I would say, been accepted as a term within the field. So, and I don't, but I definitely understand the problem that was brought up. It's making me look at it a different way, but at the same time, it wasn't my initial reaction. And I do feel like the excitement around technology doesn't always have to be part of the excitement for me in technology is the fact that I don't understand it, and I'm curious about it, and the fact that it's already been put in this box, and the fact that we're already trying to go through a method to make it easy. I feel like that in and of itself is enough to not have to worry about too much of the name, or too much of the physical characteristics of it. The use of it makes it easy and approachable, I guess. And as far as, I don't know, that's just what I think.
Simon speaking again. Yeah, I hear that, and a lot of that speaks to me as well. I think it's important for us to be having this conversation and viewing it as a conversation too, right? Like we're not trying to give it a definitive name. Again, this is a shorthand to refer to, you know, this kit right here. But a lot of the idea behind this project is, you know, to release ownership of it, right? To like share it with you and then hopefully have it shared with other people beyond that. So that's why we're trying to make everything public. So yeah, so it's good to, you know, be having conversations about how we refer to things, regardless of what the outcome is. Like, it's important to be talking about it. So I think, Thomas, are you sending out?
If you can, I just finished the spreadsheet. If you could just follow up on the emails that you shared.
I'll send those again. And I can also, I think I understand what the issue was, and I'll go over that right now too, because oh, my stream just started. Interesting.
I did that. Testing. 1 second. Let me test.
Because there's one change in the documentation I want to go over. So I have it here as the live stream ID being the part that you add to the URL. You actually want to click this button here, stream key, show stream key, and then copy that and paste that in. So I'll update this after we're done here, but that's just so you know what the issue is, and for the sake of posterity here. It's not the live stream ID you want circled here. It's actually what's hidden behind this button, show stream key. So I will email those all out to you. If we put the hold music back on, or if you all want to keep discussing.
This is Terry speaking. Kat raised a great question in the chat. How descriptive of the tech does the name need to be? And yeah, I don't think it actually doesn't really need to be that descriptive.
I agree.
Hi, this is Kat. Just in response to that, Terry, yeah, I was thinking about how you brought up in the chat, thinking about motion capture. I almost feel like it's kind of implied the closer that you are to this kind of technology and using, putting like performance into virtual spaces. I think that the motion capture, once you look into the project, it's pretty explanatory. I like virtual performance toolkit, like the VPT thing. And I'm obviously open to anything, but the VPT has been working really well for me in describing it.
Yeah, I really like this discussion, and it's really helpful just to pause and reflect on what we're doing and the language we're using. I'm thinking in terms of VPT. I call it, I call it toolbox, not coming from outside of this tech. And a lot of people have been saying toolkit, and that's also a question for me, because I'm like totally like coming from the outside and thinking, okay, well, what could it be? And I was thinking, there's a question like, is the kit? Yeah, there's the kit, which is like the equipment, the hardware, but inside the box, maybe there's also the kit plus the like softwares and all the different things. That's how I started like maybe thinking, but I'm really curious about everyone's like ideas about that.
I like toolbox, and one thing that we've been talking like with Valencia earlier in this process is around building a community and having this be something that somebody can. We're inspired by the creative coding community around P5JS, how they've been able to make computational thinking and computational and generative programming something that's relatively accessible and not off-putting to a lot of people. And so we're trying to the part of naming and part of the way that we want to present, and we're working our way through that post rapid response is like, how is this something that appeals to a general, and this is always difficult to say, what is a general public? Because now we need to define what that is. But let's say a new media art community, right? And that's what I think is interesting. I'm excited about, are there community groups that engage with dance or engage with movement that aren't necessarily creative tech oriented, and how would they approach this? Like, so if I think of it a little bit as an audience research problem, not problem, but a project. And I don't think we have to answer at this moment, but I would love to hear from that perspective, or as you've had exposure to your communities or know of communities, what kind of, and again, it's difficult to represent those communities or to, be an answer for them, but yeah. So that was part of what I was thinking is like, toolbox works really well for me more than kit. The kit in my mind is it's like kit, you kit yourself out. That's what that word comes from. Valencia, you're right. Like the kit is the actual hardware. It's the stuff that you have, the atoms, the physical things you hold in your hand. And the toolbox is conceptually, could be anything. Could be anything. It could be curriculum. It could be software. It could be philosophy. There could be all these different, there's philosophical toolboxes. So like that's, I like the idea of toolbox as an overarching concept. And then kit, the only reason the word kit is in there, again, is from camera and from film, where they talk about, the kit.
Thanks for that, Thomas. I just need to step away for a minute because I need to get my my computer's gonna die and I forgot my stuff. So please continue.
Simon speaking. With that being said, you should have just gotten your updated URLs in your email. If you check as a reply to the first email that I sent you this morning.
I think we're starting, if we were to like put a pause in this conversation around the naming, looks like VPK is working as a part that's part of the VPT. And that seems, is that right? Or is there anything else that we can add to this before we move on into the streaming part of getting it into Spoke?
All right.
I have Marianne here. I have a question. Now with the new URL, do I have to restart just to get it to press restart, or just like to start over? Because I've tried pressing start and it doesn't seem to be doing anything yet.
I would restart. Yeah.
Thank you.
Simon speaking. That button restarts the Raspberry Pi, correct?
Yeah.
It seems like looking at the chat, other people have gotten it to work too. Liam, yours is working. Oh, are you referring to the name, or have you gotten your stream running?
Oh yeah, I was just referring to the name, but I'm working on it now.
Cool. And Carlos, you said yours is working? Great. Oops. So while everyone's getting set up, I'll show you what this looks like when it's streaming properly. Let's see if that reads at all. So you'll see that there's two windows on the screen of the Pi, and it doesn't read very well on my camera here, but it's you can probably see it on your own. And Thomas can explain this better than I can, but the left image is the depth and RGB data, and the right is HSB, right, Thomas? I think you're muted, sorry.
On the left, you're seeing just the regular camera. And on the right, you're seeing the depth data encoded in a color space called hue saturation. So we're basically converting hue HSV, which is hue saturation
balance.
Yeah, converted to RGB. But that's what we use on the other end. We combine those two to recreate a point cloud. So when you are in your stream console, that's one way you can make sure that you're actually streaming. You'll see that they're on top of each other. So I don't know if Simon shared that, but there's a stream, the Mux stream website basically, that will show all the streams that you've ever recorded, and it will also show the current live stream. And we're also there's video is also in there. The audio is also being put in there. So it's an audio and video stream, not just a video only.
Simon speaking, I looked it up. It's hue, saturation, brightness, HSB.
Carlos speaking. Question: How big can a stream be?
I have yet to find out. At least an hour, as I think I've streamed for an hour. It can keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Terry speaking. It looks like I'm getting a similar error message where it uploads for maybe 3 seconds and then it goes away. But this time it says a series of stream _state _ changed error messages in the little stream box.
Does it, in the end, it should say paused, null, or ready, like the final, what's the last few seconds?
It says info : exiting RealSense capture process undefined. Yeah, I'm getting the same as Cat.
Have you restarted, both you and Kat, have you restarted your Raspberry Pi since we put the wrong URLs in?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, I restarted.
Hey, Thomas, this is Remy speaking. I just wanted to add that I've restarted the Raspberry after putting in the new URL, and I'm getting the same information that both Kat and Terry are getting.
Okay. There's a lot, that text box is scrolling. Can one of you send me the full list? It's a lot of information. It's like, it could be 100 lines, so I can have a look.
Do you want me to copy and paste, or shall I Slack it to you, Thomas?
You can Slack it to me, yeah, because the Zoom, it's going to be a lot. It's a lot,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Why don't you
Okay,
Slack
I'll
it to
do
me?
that.
That's
I'll do
perfect.
that now.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Marianne here again. When I press restart, it doesn't do anything. Is there a way for me to restart from VNC?
Yeah. So if you can connect to it over VNC, then you can restart by going to the Raspberry button at the top left. And then if you scroll all the way down, you have to scroll a little bit. It will eventually show log out.
Yeah.
And when you press log out, you can choose reboot.
Got it. Thank you.
This is Valencia here. I was getting the streaming, but then it says an unexpected errors. Should I also send you my, I don't know, the stream? How do you call that?
Yeah, the status, I guess is what that's called. Yeah.
How should I send it to you?
Slack is great because it's a lot.
Okay.
Has anybody been able to stream continuously? Carlos, did you get it to work?
Yeah, it's working for me. It's still streaming.
It's still streaming. Anybody else?
Simon
It
speaking,
might also,
mine is.
Sorry, this is Carlos speaking. It might also be because I switched to Ethernet and plugged it in that way. Not sure if other people are using Wi-Fi.
Is everybody else is anybody that's having issues also on Ethernet, or is everybody on Wi-Fi?
This is Terry speaking. I switched to Ethernet during the break. I mean, I just plugged it in. I don't know if I am actually using the Ethernet. There might be another step that I need to do to switch over.
It should automatically select it.
Simon speaking here. What do you all think? In the interest of time and recording, should I demonstrate what you would do if this were working and how to get it into Spoke? Because troubleshooting can take a while.
Yeah.
What do you think, Thomas?
One thing I need to. What I can do is I have the ability to remote to Valencia's Raspberry Pi. Like I can connect to that remotely from here, and because Valencia is having the same error, I can troubleshoot what Valencia is seeing, and based on that, try and guide you guys. I am not sure what is causing the error, so I mean that's why we're testing this. One thing that we can do is we can use a live stream that is working. So if Carlos would volunteer, or Simon, if you would volunteer your live stream, then we can, everybody in Hub, in Spoke, everybody can use that URL because you can stream to many different people. It's one stream, live stream, but then a lot of people can watch that stream. So we can still do the rest while we try and figure out why the capture kits, why those kits aren't connecting yet. How does
Yeah,
that?
that's fine with me.
Is that because it looks like there's one problem that a few of us are having. And so I'd rather solve that with one of you and then replicate it to everybody else versus trying to solve it with all of you at the same time. Sounds good? Okay.
Simon speaking. Carlos, do you want to be replicated across the multiverse here?
Replicate.
All right. So let me take a moment to catch up to where we are here. So Thomas, just to be clear, in that sheet with the list of all the URLs, the one that we use for Spoke is the HTTP endpoint Spoke Hub. And you updated those just now, right? You did? Okay. All right, then. Let's see here. Okay, so the next step that we would take is to test that the stream's working before bringing it into Spoke. There's a website that we've set up that will show you the volumetric data. And that URL is, let me get that and paste that in. Thomas, I'm not sure if I'm missing a step. That URL has a black screen with volumetric stream example, assumes HLS stream and stacked RGBD textures. It's the github.io one, right? I think you're muted.
Sorry, I was debugging. Can you catch me up to where you are?
So I'm trying to get to that test page, the 3JS one, where we can see the stream.
Okay, yeah.
And that URL, previously when I looked at it, it had a control panel on it. When I put in the volumetric performance at github.io/VPT stream/stream HTML,
yeah. I
have a black screen that says volumetric stream example at the top, but with no controls or anything.
Okay. Can you send that link to me for a second?
Yeah. Or I'll Slack it to you. I may be missing a step here.
It's broken.
Ah.
I need to focus on one or the other. So
Sure.
I think we can
I'll skip ahead to Spoke.
Skip ahead to Spoke.
Yeah. Okay. We'll come back to that one later too. All right. So Simon speaking again. When you on your computer, we'll go ahead and open up Spoke at the volumetric performance.art URL. I'll paste that in here. And you can either start a new project. Here, I'll share my screen. Start a new project or open an existing one. And at this point, after the tutorial that Marin gave, you probably all know a bit more about Spoke than I do, but I'll walk you through the how you get the volumetric stream in there. So you will want to go in under your assets here in the left-hand side of the screen. It should default to elements. Under elements, if you scroll to the bottom, there's VPT stream right here. So you want to place VPT stream into your scene. Then I'm going to stop sharing my screen briefly so I can grab the, Carlos, so I can grab your streaming URL.
Question, this is Carlos speaking. Do I have to previously put in my unique ID in the Mux live streams portion? As in, I share my screen.
Simon speaking. You should just need to grab that. Let me see here. Oh, you need a different endpoint. That's right. That's what's missing from your list here. I think this should be fine to share. Let me. Thomas, is it okay to put the HTTP endpoint in the chat right here?
Sure.
Okay. So I'll need to get this to you as well. As I said before, I'm still learning a lot of this with you. This is the joke I always have about education is often your instructor, they hand out a couple hours before you did. So I'm still learning this as well. So this is the endpoint, the link to Carlos's stream. It's different from the secure one. But that should get pasted into, I'll show you over here. Once you have in Spoke the VTP stream in your scene, on your viewport, and you have it selected in the hierarchy over here, down here on the bottom right under properties, at the bottom there's VPT stream. In stream URL, you would paste that URL in. And this one should start with HTTPS and end with M3U8. And we can see here that we are getting volumetric data from Carlos's performance kit. Carlos, how do you feel about performing for us right now?
I can see my room. This is cool. I got like one dance move is the Macarena, and that's it.
Timeless.
I must say, I'm super excited to see this. I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, it is a little bit spooky, like seeing into Carlos's room, but this is amazing.
Yes, Carlos.
You're actually doing the Macarena.
That's amazing, Carlos.
Thank you. Consistency.
That's so cool.
It is. Thanks for being such a gracious performer.
Thank you, Carlos.
Oh.
So Simon speaking here. So this is how these things often go, right? There's all this like plugging things into each other and parsing through different lines of text, but suddenly here we are in 3D space viewing three-dimensional Carlos in the Spoke scene. So there's a few, let's see. I'll make sure I have the right thing selected. When I have VPT stream selected here, there are a bunch of other attributes that I can adjust. So you want to make sure that the camera sensor is on RealSense D415. If you drop this down, you'll see there is the option for custom or Azure Connect. To give some background, the Azure Connect camera is the one that we used, that Valencia used in the pilot performance that we did back in September and previously. It's one made by Microsoft. It's much bigger than the RealSense on your kit. It's also much more expensive. I believe the Connect costs more than the entire kit combined. It offers higher resolution. There's a lot of other things, but just explain what that is, what that's in there, and why the RealSense looks a little bit different. The render mode, Thomas can explain when he's available. Can explain this better than I can. There's a little tooltip here. It says what type of media this frame will capture. The point size. Let's see if I can adjust this in real time. That should change the size of the points. So as it explains, the size of the the colored dots that are in the image. Doesn't seem to be changing. So that might be something that we can look at a bit later. And then, sorry, go ahead.
The points don't work and the thresholds don't work right
Okay.
now. So the only thing you can really do, should do, is change the stream URL. But there's going to be a future soon where we can change the point size. And one thing that we can do is when you scale, you can also scale this, and the point size will adjust with the scale. So you can, if you, in the properties of the VPT stream, scale it. It gets larger, and the points will get larger with it. And then you can move it around.
I have a quick question. This is Kat speaking. So in talking, what Simon mentioned about the Azure Connect versus what we're using right now, is it just a smaller amount of points or of data? I guess I'm confused at how to relate the two. Is it like a smaller frame size of what it picks up?
Yeah, the difference is actually, that's not as much the difference. It's the quality. So the Azure Connect uses a different, it's a very different type of sensor. It doesn't use stereoscopic imaging. It uses a thing called time of flight. So it's a different way to sense depth. And it results, it's more expensive, but it also results in a higher quality point cloud. So you'll get, you get more definition with the Azure Connect. That's the primary difference between it. And the reason why, we need to support multiple camera. Each camera has a different way. Each camera has different lens characteristics. Just like if you would have a DSLR lens or a regular camera put in a different lens, you know how they have different f-stops and all that. That's the same. That's also when you're dealing with these depth sensing cameras. So there's the RealSense D415, but there's also, if you look up, there's also a RealSense D435. There's a 450, and there's others out there, and they all have different camera characteristics. So I wanted to build this in a way that we would be open to a future where you could enter in, you could make recordings or do live recordings with a whole bunch of other pieces of software, not just with the kits that we've put together, right, those 8 kits, but I think there's a future where we'll be using our phone, right? And so one of those drop downs eventually will be iPhone 12. Like if you have an iPhone 12 or an iPad, you'd be able to use the depth sensing capabilities in the new iPhones and iPads to be able to do to be able to create that depth. So we're kind of at the start of an explosion in consumer accessible depth sensing. And we're just at the start of that. That's what's, I think, part of exciting as to what we have here. And the RealSense D415 is the cheapest sensor that we can get that kind of is good enough. And is able to put in, it's a low power. That's the other part. Azure Connect requires a lot of power and it requires a lot of compute power to be able to use. And so that kind of raises the bar. We would go from, right now, the capture kit that we put together is $350, and you could do it cheaper if you wanted, but like everything that we put together is $350. And if you want an Azure Connect with the PC that would be able to power it, it would be at least $900. So that's part of what we're trying to solve. That was a long answer as always. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, we should have been recording that for, this is Kat, we should have been recording that for documentation, like an interview of like the why behind the project. Yeah, that was a great explanation of why this and why now. And yeah, super helpful. Thanks.
Great.
Very exciting stuff.
And we have a list of documentation or articles that we want to write. And this really is one that I'm looking forward to write to kind of give a bit of an idea. And a key thing to understand is I want to make sure that we're building a system that other technologists or other people that are working with depth sensing cameras can easily plug into, so that we're not stuck with just one way to do things, but that there could be many ways to do things. Thank you.
This is, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
This is Terry speaking. I just wanted to let you know, Thomas, that my Raspberry camera, Pi, seems to be working now. I did the reboot that Marian mentioned, and it's through VNC, and it's up and running now.
Okay. Now, I wonder, I'm trying to figure out what is causing it. I wonder if there's a, like a handshake, you know, it needs to make a handshake with MUX. And that handshake, the buffer on that handshake is 3 seconds. And I think what you guys are seeing is you're seeing it run for 3 seconds and then it crashes. And so within those 3 seconds, for some reason, it's not able to handshake effectively or correctly with MUX to say, okay, here's your data. How am I going to fix that? I don't know. But maybe if I make the handshake longer, you know, if I give it 10 seconds, it might work. So like that's something that I need to think about. So that's where we're at right now. So I'm glad to hear that it looks like it's working for a lot of you all. And I have the impression that the problem we're seeing is a networking problem, not a bug in our software. Does that make sense? But like that it's, or a bug in the hardware, which would be even worse. Like I think it's generally all working. It's just having some issues with the timeouts. Who isn't it working for right now?
It's not working for me, but I'm going to try, this is Remy speaking, sorry. I'm going to try the reboot through VNC and see if that's the ticket.
Yeah, it looks like I can see all the streams that are currently going. So I can see that we have 5 streams, which is good news. 2 of them are, and so that means 3 of them are out right now, and Valencia's out because I'm trying to fix hers.
Yes, thanks. Valencia here. I was just not sure what I should do, so I just leave it alone, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, got it.
Simon speaking. We have a few minutes left in our planned session today. I do want to show the jump from spoke to hubs, because that's kind of where you see it all come together, right? And there is a question about auto playing video that we'll start that discussion today. I don't know if we'll get all the way through it right now, but I'll share my screen again.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So Marianne speaking. How did you get the URL that worked for Carlos that has the stream.mux? Like, where do you find that on? Where do we find that on ours?
Sure, I'll have to send, Simon speaking, I'll have to send those out to you. When I was putting together
Okay.
those emails this morning, I made a few mistakes just from my not fully understanding which parts are supposed to go to you. But for the sake of wrapping this up and in the Zoom call, I'll show it with Carlos's, and then following that, I will send you the URLs to use. And yeah, because you patch a few things together from the information in Mux, and I had done that wrong this morning. But I'll send everyone a follow-up email with everything they need to be able to go through this process.
Thank you.
Let me share my screen again. So in Spoke, I went ahead and clicked Publish Scene up here, and you all went through that yesterday, but there's some prompts, it checks your polygon count, all that stuff. You put in your attribution, you press Publish, and then it compiles everything or loads everything together. And then if you click View Your Scene, it should open this window for hubs. And if you click Create Room with this scene, it shows the scene with a non-playing version of the volumetric stream. So I'm going to enter the room. So moving around the space and hubs. Here's Carlos's room. And Thomas, the start stream button was there before I entered and disappeared when I entered. Do you
Yeah,
know
that's
anything?
what I was telling you. That's broken right now.
Okay. Well, let me
So-
go back to being outside of the.
Yeah. And if you can turn on autoplay by clicking on the right
lock.
there. Yeah. And so where it
Okay.
says autoplay, instead of saying block audio and video, if you would choose allow, and then if you reload, it should just play.
There we go. So there is a hub space with the performance kit stream of volumetric Carlos.
Hey, this is Kat speaking. Carlos, could you wave your hand or something so that we could experience the latency? Or you can let us know what that is looking like?
Yeah, so you can see me on Zoom waving my hand right now. And we'll see whenever that pops up. I'm wondering, is there anything I should do with my lighting situation to make myself clearer?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Carlos. So because we're using cameras, we're using webcams, basically 2 webcams, and doing stereo out of that. It really likes a lot of light, more than our eyes are used to. Like when we're like, oh, I'm in a bright enough space, it actually is not going to like it as much. And so getting kind of like what I have, like getting a lot of light like at the front of you is going to help with the capture, versus if something is behind you, then it will be more difficult. Yeah, I like it. I like your approach, Carlos. And a way that I've tested latency is to clap. So I clap and then I count the seconds, or you could use a timer to try and then I get an idea of what it's like.
And I don't know if you all can, this is Simon speaking. I don't know if you can hear this through my screen share, but Carlos, I am picking up your microphone. It's spatialized because it's in hubs, but that is working.
So yeah, you can see how much better, how much more defined Carlos becomes with what to Carlos's perspective probably is a hella bright light, but to the real sense, it falls apart a little bit. And part of that's also because we're showing it volumetrically, so it's there's some spaces between the points.
Marianne speaking. Question. From using mocap, like in a mocap studio, I was told that because of the infrared, you couldn't really do it outside. Does this mean because this uses infrared, you can?
You can use outside. That's one of the very strong things about the RealSense is that it will work outside. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Which is maybe right now, given the weather, not the best thing, but that's cool with the snow, right? One thing that we haven't tried yet is attaching a battery. Right? This could be battery powered. If the battery is powerful enough, you might be able to capture. You might be able to get a few minutes, or maybe 5 or 10 minutes of like actual like remote live stream. Like you could be outside walking or doing something, or interviewing somebody in the street without having to have that power, a big power cord with you. So that's another interesting thing about this approach that we've chosen, was to kind of make it as mobile as possible, hoping that in the future there would be, we just haven't done the research, but there's power packs that you can get that like supply drones, like the ones that use the drone, that would be might be sufficient for what we're doing.
Cool.
Simon speaking, that in a Wi-Fi hotspot, right?
And a Wi-Fi hotspot, well said, Simon. Yeah, but with 5G everywhere, we should get some sponsorship from Verizon, that's for sure. They should give us money to do that. Yeah.
Maybe we'll see our YouTube channel. All right, we're at 2:30. There is a bit more to go over here, but we're going to be spending quite a bit of time together over through January and everything. And so and Valencia can correct me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding of our January check-ins is it is time to support each other. It's time to try things out. It's time to experiment. And this is all very new. As you can see, we're learning a lot of this together. And there'll be a lot of questions that come up, and it'll, as I see it, only get better and more interesting from here. So the things that I've been asked to, moving the camera to the side so you can see them three-dimensionally. All right. The things that I feel that I'd wanted to include today are more of a discussion about what we did with the autoplay there. Thomas has explained pretty succinctly to me about why we have to do that. I think the short answer is modern browsers, for good reason, that has to do with keeping advertising out of our lives to an extent, are pretty careful about letting videos autoplay. So what I did, where I clicked the lock here and chose autoplay here in Firefox, that is something that needs to be communicated to our audience. This is something that we worked with in Valencia's performances in September, where part of the thing that we talked about with people in the session, in our kind of Q&A session before the performance, was how to enable that for themselves. And in the document, let me confirm this works. I'm going to go away from the stream for a moment. But in this document, there's a link to a PDF that we put together for the performances we did in September. And this talks about turn your autoplay settings off. You'll probably want to turn these back on afterwards, but this is something that we can kind of think about how to communicate it and how to work with it. Maybe Tom's can speak more about this here, but you will have to make sure that your browser can autoplay before you see motion in the stream.
Yeah, well, one thing is, in the end, we did figure out how to get, basically, Simon pointed out, we actually don't want auto-playing videos in our browsers. It's a terrible idea because advertisers completely abused it. And so that's why it's a good thing for this to be there. It's not as good for us because we want to have a seamless experience. And that's an interesting philosophical thing about the seamlessness of an experience and, having some friction and privacy, right? More private typically means a little bit more friction in what you need to do. Or there's a trade-off. However, so what the solution is there's going to be a play button. The way that we solve the fact that people do not need to turn on their autoplay is that there's going to be a play button on the stream. So I can detect if the stream is playing or not playing. And if it's not playing, I'll put a button on it that says play. It's not the best because you don't go to a theater and press the button play to see the experience, but that's the best that we can do within the context of this and within the context of needing a safe internet or needing an internet that respects our choices. So that's kind of in a box where that is. For us right now, I think in the next few weeks, having that on is the solution. Once you're familiar with turning it on and off, it's pretty easy to go in and out. I would recommend turning it off whenever you don't need it because it does spam, though. If you have like an ad block detector, sometimes, especially if you're using Firefox, it already doesn't even allow the videos to show up. So it's kind of up to you how you want to work that. Are there any questions about that or anything that I can talk through?
Hi, this is Kat speaking. I have a quick question. I'm still unable to get past the dropping of the stream after just a few seconds of running it on the kit. And I'm wondering if that is at all related, like what you're talking about right now with autoplay and ad blocker. Like I'm running Mozilla Firefox with an ad blocker. Is that, do you think, impacting the stream or?
No, I don't think so. So I was able to get Valencia running. Valencia, yours is still running, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that one is up and running. And in Valencia's case, there was something up with the audio. The audio wasn't set up correctly. And so what I would like to do is walk you through what I had to do to fix Valencia's stream. and to see if you all have the same challenge. Is that something that we could do right now? Or what I'm trying to figure out is like, I want to be I want to be able to wrap up everything that we've done. And then we're having another workshop on Monday, so we can, I don't want to overshadow that workshop with troubleshooting, but we will have more chance to do some troubleshooting. And I can do some troubleshooting after this session with you, Kat, or whoever else is having issues with doing the connection.
This is Kat. I could definitely stay on for a moment if you don't mind a quick troubleshoot after this session.
Not at all. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm also available if anyone is. But if you need to jump off, then thank you so much for today. Don't feel obliged to stay if that's not something you can do.
So I think as a wrap up, what we'll do, Marianne had the question about, what is my URL? Like, which one do I plug into Spoke? I want to be in 3D too. We're going to send you that URL and also how you can get it. There's a MUX panel that you can enter into, and that MUX panel also shows you, it's the play, I forget what it's called now. Too many things going on in my mind. Something play, and it's right there, and you say copy URL. That's the URL that you want. It's always the same. It never changes. And then there's a list of assets, and those are all your recordings. So those will be all the recordings that you've ever made. So if you start and stop it, it needs to run for, I think, 15 seconds or something like that for it to have enough information to make a recording. So if you have a lot of short ones, you'll see that they error out and that they're not valid. Or let's say this is an invalid one. It's really the ones that are longer that run for like a minute or more that get recorded automatically. But we will follow up with URLs and also be available over Slack to help you troubleshoot and figure that stuff out so that you can all play with your toys.
And Simon speaking again, it is, I want to point out before you go, it is important to stop the stream on that streaming endpoint webpage. There's a stop button. I'm going to stop mine right now. And the screen on your Raspberry Pi should go back to having that IP address and then being a blank black screen below that. You also will want to shut down your Raspberry Pi before you unplug it. It's better for the computer. And that shutdown button on that page does work for me. If you
not all of them are going to have a shutdown button because we haven't updated the software.
Okay. In that
so
case,
yeah.
You'll want to use VNC and click that Raspberry icon in the upper left-hand corner, and then go down to logout, click logout, and press shutdown. You can also do this with the stylus, but it takes some fine control to be able to hit every option. Any questions about shutting down your performance kit? Once the screen is white, you can unplug it. Okay, thanks so much for bearing with us, for being collaborative, for learning. I'm really excited to see what you all make with this. And yeah, we'll pick this up for Valencia's presentation and workshop on Monday.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This was great.
Yeah, see you on Monday.
Yeah, so Monday we are gonna start with some a presentation by Kat, who will introduce her work, and we're looking forward to seeing that. And we're gonna have a guest actually to start us off with some critical discourse on Monday. Lajune Macmillan is going to grace us with her amazing work and perspective. She's been a huge inspiration to just how the discourse on how we can achieve the colonial lens in our creation and thinking about strategies for decolonization in XR. And she just premiered an amazing work called Antidote, and she will share a bit about the creation process of that. And then we were going to get into a bit of moving for immersive web space. And so in the afternoon, we will really get into putting our streams into Spoke and Hub. So just an update on the how we're thinking about the structure for Monday. So yeah, I'm really excited. about it. So so thank you so much, Thomas and Simon, for this session. And thank you, all of you, for being here with us and for being on this journey, writing through all the troubleshooting and everything. It's going to be, I'm just so excited. So have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. I'm staying on to anybody that wants to troubleshoot.
So I'll be leaving this. Yeah, I'll just stop the recording. Okay.